If you have any questions about any of this, email me. My email is right here on the screen. Otherwise, I do have the chat pulled up and I'll try to get to those while we're going through this and without being too disruptive. All right, so first I'll start off with Matt updates. So we did have our annual conference this last weekend, and I really want to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone who attended this year's conference. As always, your guys's not only your presence at the conference, but your enthusiasm and engagement really make a difference and help make the event a real success. So thank you if you went. I really appreciate it. The annual conference is a great opportunity for us at MAT and also the board to gain insight into our membership. And it really helps shape the future of our organization and the longevity of our organization and township government as a whole in the state of Minnesota. So again, thanks for coming. There were educational sessions, networking opportunities, and discussions, and I really found them valuable, and I hope you did too. And in the spirit of Christmas, I just want to say that you are all an essential part of the community here at MAT and near and dear to my heart, as well as all of us at MAT and the staff here. So thank you for that, for a great year. I have a question in the chat. How many people showed up at the conference? I believe it was a little over 200 who registered, but I think on the day of, I don't have the exact number, but it was something like 20 day of registrations, 217. I was so close. Yeah, 217. Thank you, Leslie. Okay, coming up, Township Day at the Capitol. So if you missed out on the annual conference, you wish you could have been there. There is another event coming up put on by Matt. And the great thing about the Township Day at the Capitol this year is that we are not charging for it. So it's for free, yay. So we really, really, really want you guys to attend. It's so important to the future of township government in the state of Minnesota for legislators to be able to hear your voice as township officers. So that is January 27th. Pre-registration closes on January 20th. The rate includes surface level parking, so the rate of 0. Surface level parking along with breakfast, and to make sure to book your hotel room. That is not covered by the rate, but if you would like, call the Radisson Capitol Ridge Hotel and mention that you're with the Association of Townships and you'll get a special rate. We also have a link to that online on our website. So if you need help finding it, either reach out to me, I can help you out. Otherwise, it's on our website. The Township Day at the Capitol is really just an opportunity to speak with legislators about issues and advocate for township governments and township priorities. You are the voice of the community. Our office can kind of speak to them till our face turns blue, but when it comes down to it, they really want to hear from the people who are directly impacted by the laws that they're making and who really live the life of as a township officer. So it really does make a huge difference. And we will be with you. We'll have scripts. We'll, if you're not comfortable attending the meetings on your own, we'll try to attend those with you as much as we can. So don't be afraid. There is a ton of support there, not only from your fellow officers, but from our staff. So I really encourage you to go. It's a great opportunity. Okay, I'll stop blabbing. I'll get to the topic of the day. Okay, so today we will be talking about gifts and bonuses. Although it's hard to believe that giving gifts could be a bad thing, especially around Christmas, we want to make sure that township resources are used for essential services and projects rather than create a perception of potential favoritism or wastefulness by giving gifts that might not serve a public purpose. So you've all been chosen by your community in one way or another to be a leader for your township. And as township officers, you're stewards not only for the public, but for the public funds, right? That's tax money that they're giving you and trusting you with to spend wisely. So you kind of have this ethical standard of maintaining transparency in the town's transactions, and protecting public trust and taxpayer resources. So that's really something that you want to pay attention to. Not following these ethical standards could cause risks of lawsuits or public trust and issues down the road. So it's really important that you're careful about that. Okay, giving gifts. So what is a gift, right? In the context of Minnesota government, a gift is generally considered anything of value that is given or received without receiving value in return. So this definition applies to both the giving and receiving of gifts by public officers or their employees. And the concept of a gift is particularly important in the context of public funds and conflict of interest laws. So we'll talk about that a little bit. The Minnesota Constitution prohibits using private funds for a public benefit. Public money must be spent for a public purpose. That's called the public purpose doctrine. The public purpose doctrine comes from the state constitution, in part, which states that taxes shall be uniform upon the same class of subjects and shall be levied and collected for a public purpose. It has a two-part analysis that's required to kind of take a look at when you're entering into whether you should make these expenditures. First, you have to take a look at whether this public use of funds will be for a public purpose. So the Supreme Court stated, what is a public purpose that will justify this expenditure of money is not capable of precise definitions. They're so helpful. But the courts generally construe it to mean such activity as will serve the benefit of the community as a whole, as a body, which at the same time is directly related to the functions of government. So does it benefit my community as a whole? And is it serving the function of government? That's kind of that first analysis. And then the second analysis is there must be a specific statutory authority for that expenditure. So authority for the township to act might be specifically stated in statute or implied as necessary to carry out something that is expressly authorized in statute. So even if the electors of a town approve a contribution at an annual meeting, for example, that may not be authorized by statute, and the township board may not be able to make that expense anyways. So that is the second part of the analysis. So you have to make sure it's for a public purpose and make sure that there is a specific statute that authorizes you to make that expenditure, even if the township votes that you're allowed to do it. So we do have a document on our website called Contributions and Donations that goes over a lot of those statutes and what you're allowed to make contributions to. And many of these scenarios get into the weeds because the statutes don't expressly say, like, let's say, for example, there's a statute that says you can spend money for town celebrations, right? But if you spend money on fireworks, that's not expressly in the statute. That's not specifically in the statute. But it's implied that you can spend that money by that other statute that says you can spend it on town celebrations. If you have any questions or concerns as to whether there is a statute that authorizes your expense, please reach out to me or your township attorney if you'd like. Oh no, how does it do that? Okay, now accepting gifts. The town can accept donations pretty easily. Minnesota statute 465.03 allows the governing body of a town to accept gifts for the benefit of its citizens following terms prescribed by the donor. So if someone wants to make a donation to the town, you can accept that donation by resolution, and you want to explain what that donation is specifically for in that resolution. And then it has to be approved by 2/3 majority of the board, and then you're good to go. You want to be careful anytime conflict of interest arises, though, right? So a supervisor cannot benefit financially from their position beyond what is allowed in statute. Anytime a supervisor is paid for their work, for example, that is outside of elected official duties, a conflict of interest arises. There are some exceptions to this. I know I've gone over this before, but such as a contract that doesn't require sealed bids, they can go through certain procedural processes to make that work. But as a general rule for today's purposes and accepting gifts, supervisors cannot benefit from their position in that way. So you want to be careful about accepting gifts on a personal level as a township officer. Gift cards are another kind of tricky one. Once received by the local government, gift cards become public funds and accordingly can only be held and expensed through the public purpose doctrine, right? It presents kind of an interesting situation for local government units because there's no authority under Minnesota law to use a gift card as a disbursement of public funds. And it's unclear kind of how local governments could use a gift card. So it can be pretty tricky with accepting gift cards. Oh my goodness. Bonuses. All right, bonuses to the public or to public employees is generally prohibited as a general rule. You're not allowed to offer kind of one-time bonuses in the way you are typically offered in employment at a corporate office, for example. There is an AG opinion that indicates that giving bonuses is like giving gifts, and there's no public purpose to giving a gift, right? That as we just discussed. But so I do see in the chat we have a couple of questions regarding elections, and I'm just going to get to those at the end, just because they're not related to what I'm chatting about now. So I don't want to cause any confusion for people. So I do see it, but I'm gonna get to it at the end. Bonuses. Okay, so there is an AG opinion saying that bonuses are practically gifts, and you can't do that. So you might be able to accomplish kind of the same goal if the board gives performance-based payment. So it has to be set up kind of in the right way. And here's a few options. So maybe you can offer an increased rate of pay for next season, promise them an increased rate of pay for next season and ensure they come back. Or offer an increased rate of pay partway through the year, so they're encouraged to stay later through the year if you're worried about them leaving without a bonus. Or offer additional pay for response to a minimum number of calls or a completion of training, for example. So if it's meeting certain qualifications, then you might be able to kind of give a pseudo bonus in that way, but you can't give bonuses, one-time bonuses that in a way a corporation would, whereas Merry Christmas, here's X amount of money, right? Gift cards. We talked a little bit about that, but they do tend to be a popular option or raise a lot of questions for government entities, townships, but it raises some legal and ethical concerns. Some legal issues include the fact that gifts are not for a public purpose, right? We already talked about that. And there's a lack of authority to use these gift cards to expense public funds. So only the treasurer is authorized to receive and has custody and can disperse public funds. So the actual disbursement of the funds can be seen to occur when the gift card is spent, rather than when the gift card is purchased. And gift cards are hard to track, right? There's no way of knowing where that gift card is being spent, and what the town is spending it on, or what that employee is spending it on if you're giving the gift card. So it's really difficult to say whether that is for a public purpose or authorized by statute. If you are considering using a gift card, I really encourage you to take a look at whether that is a good idea. Maybe speak with your town attorney on it. The Office of State Auditor also has a opinion that they published, or has a statement that they published about using gift cards for townships. So there's a lot of good information in there too. All right, specific scenarios that the township might encounter when it comes to gifts. Gifting to retired employees or volunteers or township officers. So a lot of times when a township officer is retiring, they'll want to give a gift of congratulations, thank you for your service, right? So the board can do this. There is a statute that addresses this. It's Minnesota Statute 36510, subdivision 12, and it requires the board to get permission from the electors at the annual meeting with a set amount of money on what they want to spend on that. So you are able to do that as long as you have the authorization from the voters to do so, and how much you can spend on that. Sometimes we get the question of whether the township can purchase flowers for an officer's funeral. Now, that is not expressly allowed in statutes. In this statute that I referenced here, they don't talk about funerals. They only talk about recognition of service. So funerals aren't really addressed there, so it's not something that I recommend. Now, if the township wants to spend personal funds, the officers want to spend their own personal money on getting those flowers, that's fine, but it can't be township funds to spend that money. Offering items at a township event, like food or prizes, things like that. Voters can authorize the supervisors to hold a town celebration. So if your expense fits into that category and it's for a public purpose, then you should be okay. Bonuses for employees during the holiday, right? These are prohibited. We just talked about this a little bit, but it's seen as a gift with no public purpose. So you can't give a holiday bonus to your employees. Acceptance of gifts by township officers from vendors or residents. This is allowed by resolution. You need to describe the terms of the donation and what it will be used for, and then obviously use it for that specific thing, but it should be okay. Now, a lot of times people donate for a road, right? You want to be careful with that because you want to make sure that it's clear in terms of maintenance, whether the town is ready to take that on. So if you are accepting a gift for a road, you want to make sure the terms of what that gift includes are clear. Gifts of smaller nominal amount. Sometimes people have a misconception of, well, if it's under $5, it's fine, or things like that. Those are separate rules that apply to lobbyists and not town officers. But there is no amount of public dollars that are exempt from protection for the public purpose doctrine. All right, so the practical application of this, what does that look like? So in general, permissible practices include employee recognition program. So you can have an awards tied to pre-established criteria for employees. Like I said, where you're meeting a certain number of calls, you get an increase of pay. You're with us for a certain amount of time, you get an increase of pay. Achievement-based performance criteria for additional compensation. Also, if the board is doing this, they should make sure that they have a clear and transparent pre-approved spending policy for that. So it's clear that nobody's being favorited or offered more money due to their relationship with somebody on the board, or you're just avoiding appearances of impropriety in those situations. Prohibited practices. So obviously, one-time bonus or gift to employees or residents is prohibited. Be cautious of anything that could create the appearance of impropriety, right? Listen to your gut. What would an outsider think if they saw this transaction go on? Does it look bad? It's probably bad, right? Make sure that whatever you're doing fits within the moral criteria of the township and you as a township officer. If the town is liable for wrongful action, that's where it becomes an issue, right? It's the residents' tax money that will then be used to pay the judgment or fine. So that's when it becomes problematic. And in some instances, it's your personal money that in which you'd have to pay those fines. So, you can't use public funds for personal or political gain. I think that one's pretty obvious, but you want to make sure that that's not the case. Make sure that you are clear with your policies if you do want to implement these, either accepting donations or giving your employees awards tied to pre-established criteria. You want to make sure that you have clear policies that lay that information all out. All right, that's all I have in terms of gifts and bonuses. I won't see you all until next year, but first I'll discuss a couple of questions that are in the chat. So Chris says that treasurer vacancy question. We have a vacancy and we have a proposal from a person to serve as interim treasurer until an interim treasurer is appointed, with the proposal to consult until the new treasurer is up to speed. Can we close a meeting to have negotiations with that person? So two things. There's not really a process for an interim treasurer. They would just be appointed to that position short term, or and then they could resign from that position, and then you reappoint somebody else. But there's not really a process for an interim treasurer. And then the second, you can't close a meeting to have negotiations with that person. So there's really specific criteria that you need to meet to close a meeting. And typically it's an evaluation of someone who's already employed would be the only one that I can see even related to this. And those are the only times when a meeting like that could be closed. But there are a couple other ones, but they're completely unrelated to this, like speaking with your attorney about a lawsuit coming up, things like that. But in terms of employment. Yep, Chris said, thank you. That's what I thought. Just wanted to make sure. I did get a message from Baytown, Nancy. Do you mind just emailing me that question? You sent it direct message, so I don't want to speak about it in front of everyone if you're not comfortable. So just send me an email and I'll be happy to respond to that. Also, Worry, you asked me if my name is Madeline Carey or Madeline Cash. Yes, I don't know why it says Madeline Carey today. My name is Madeline Cash, but that is my maiden name. So I got married 3 years ago. I don't know. Who knows why these things happen? I think it's because I used the public or my web browser Zoom rather than the Zoom app on my computer. So I don't know what it connected to there. But yeah. I am Madeline Cash. Sorry, it says Madeline Carey. That's my maiden name. So sorry if it caused confusion. But other than that, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. I will see you next year for an even better 2025. And I wish you all the best with your families. Accept gifts, just not in the public. Just not as a public figure, right? Okay. But have a good afternoon. Oh, one last question. Sorry. Gary asked, I've heard that township websites must be .org next year. I believe you have until next year to apply, but you don't actually have to turn over until 2028. Leslie can help you with that. It is quite blocked up right now. As I understand it, the website to do it is rather dragging on. So Leslie can help you with that if you have any questions on how to go about doing that or need assistance in doing that. Otherwise, I can send you the link too. If you just email me, I can send you the link to the website on how to do that. But yeah, yeah, Leslie said, Gary, you'll need to apply for the .gov by June 2026. But we'll have more information coming out on that. It's kind of a complicated, confusing process. So if you have specific questions about that, feel free to email me. All right, now I'm really done. Okay, so happy holidays, everyone. I hope you have a good afternoon.